Hello, my name is Tim Cakeis of the Chicago Computer Society Linux SIG group.
Process, if not completed, uh, in installing Linux Mint on a standalone computer of your choice. And from there, we'll try and go as far as we can. Some of this takes a little bit of time because transferring to the USB devices, the ISO images can take a little time. Gparted for me runs between 5 and 8 minutes, and Linux Mint took somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes, I think. At any rate, I'm going to repeat again that I hope everybody's got 2 drives, an 8 or 16, preferably the 16, and also a smaller 1 or 2 gigabyte drive. USB 2 for both of them is fine, but you might like to have the Mint on a USB 3 stick. At any rate, I'm going to switch a camera on my end, but I'm going to also recommend another thing before I switch it. If you go in the upper right-hand corner of your viewing screen, you have 9 little dots stacked in a square, and it says View. If you click on it, switch to Speaker View. And that way you have a better chance of seeing everything that's I'm trying to present. Now, on my test machine, I have a test drive, and it's already set up with Linux Mint. And it's a little washed out, and part of this is the screen. I dimmed it a lot, but that and the camera has to be close by. Roughly speaking, I'm going to use a mouse pointer. It's a white one, not the black one. And down in the bottom left is a circle with LM in the middle. That's your start menu. Pretty common with Windows operating system. Then the next one right, this is for desktops. All the major OSs now have the ability to have 2 or more desktops. Why? Because a lot of people are power type users. They have lots of windows open. One desktop makes a nightmarish mess finding what you want at a given moment in time. So they encourage people to spread their jobs out to some of the other desktops, and then they rotate through the desktops. On this system, I don't have it set up. The next icon is Firefox. Most of the distros I'm familiar with use Firefox as a default browser, and it comes with it unless you get into some real old versions, and especially for ancient computers like 32-bit CPUs, you might need it. Next, hang on 1 second. I just got another person wanting to come in. Jerry must have gotten it. All right. The 4th icon here is Chromium. I installed Chromium, and it's the foundation browser for Google Chrome and for Microsoft Edge Chrome browser. The next one over is your terminal for command line operation. You type in your commands, what you want to get done. And in some instances, they may give you a semi-graphical display. Otherwise, they're just giving you a status of what happened or didn't happen, and also asking you questions like, yes or no, do you want to do something or not? And Peter, I'm just showing people the final product that I'm going to blow away as I do an install. And I'm hoping you have two flash drives, one 8 or 16, preferably the 16 gigs, and a small one, 1 to 2 gigs. That if we got everybody with 2 drives, we can do both of the both of the flash drives first, and then proceed from there. The next one over is like File Explorer on Windows. See your various folders, what the contents are, etc., to get to your files. The last one over here is Zoom. Zoom I installed, and it would allow me to join this meeting or any Zoom meeting from a Linux desktop. So we have that to look forward to. The next thing I want to point out is this icon right here over on the right side, and that is kind of the shape of a shield. When you first come up for about the first minute, it'll probably be all white. That means you have no updates, but it goes out while you're finishing getting every program set up and running. And mine shows the left half is white, the right half is black with a little orange dot. What that signifies is this distro on this particular drive has updates, and it says I have 14 of them. When I hover over it, you see that little message there, and I don't know if you can read it. Oh, it jumped just from the last couple hours from 14 to 16. The other thing that I change, almost every Linux distro I can remember playing with gives you a 24-hour clock. I don't like it. So I changed mine to tell me the day of the week, the month and day, and a 12-hour clock. It's easy to do. This background, very easy to change. I had a different one on here, and I put this back on because it's close to what you're going to see anyhow. And I do modify my networking. I have 2 desktops, so they're using Ethernet, not Wi-Fi. And I put DNS in them. So those are various preferences. You may want some of them, you may not want all of them. That's your choice. Just like in Windows, or if you're familiar with a Mac, you've got all kinds of choices from the original setup. That one. Well, we got one more. We got Michael. Okay, Michael, are you in?
I am here.
Okay, I was telling the people that I'm hoping they've got 2 drives, flash drives, an 8 or a 16, preferably the 16, and a 1 or 2 gigabyte drive, and we'll get all the imaging to the USB drives first, and then start the partitioning and installation. And if necessary, I just went through, you missed it. This is the same kind of version here that we're going to be putting up, and I showed them some of the things that I call preferences, that they can take the option of setting any of them or all of them up on their version.
Okay, I'm just going to sit back and watch.
Well, you can always help out.
Oh, well, I'll kibitz a little bit if you need it.
All right, hang on 1 second. I got to get, I'm playing with 2 mice, 2 keyboards, 2 screens, 2 computers.
I'll be doing the same thing tomorrow.
I got to switch things back a little bit. This time it didn't blank me out. Amazing. I recommended everybody switch their view in the upper right corner from gallery to speaker mode.
You already transferred your things to him like he asked?
I hear somebody in the background. I assume Donna.
Yes, are we supposed to be transferring the G parted to the small USB?
That's what we're going to go through. Yes.
Oh, okay, so you don't want us to move it now and try to get it on our, both of us have a USB
Well,
2.0.
if you know what you're doing, you can go ahead and do whatever you're planning on doing. But otherwise, I'm going to be walking through all this.
All right. It's just we have slow USBs because of 2.0, that's all.
Well, that's what I'm playing with. I got two USB 2s. Big deal.
Okay.
It
No
will be a
problem.
little slower than USB 3, but not that bad of a situation. All right, I'm going to change my share mode, and I'm going to go to the desktop. And now here's something I want to point out. And I'm going to go to my download folder. Now, I have played with lots of various Linuxes, so I created a folder, and that's where I keep my distros. And I've got several machines with a folder like this with all different kinds of distros. This also has in it the G parted, but I do not do Rufus there. Rufus I leave in here as a regular program. There's my 3.14p version. If you right click on it, and mind you, this is Windows 11 I'm on, so it looks a little strange. This is what you would normally see. Here's one called Create Shortcut. Then when you create the shortcut, at the bottom of the list, you'll have the shortcut. I just drag that off to my desktop for easy convenience. That's kind of like a personal preference. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change this view. I've got another presentation for Windows 11 in the morning. So I clean off my icons. And this is my Rufus here. So I'm going to double click on it to launch it. It wants administrator privileges, and I'm in a standard user account where everybody should be. All right. This is basically Rufus. It's not that much. It's not that pretty. It comes from the Linux world and is not a regular Windows program. It does not install like a regular program. It doesn't modify the registry. If I go to that download folder and I click delete on Rufus, it will just disappear. And it won't be available anymore. Now, I'm going to take my small drive and I'm going to plug it in. All right. Now, up at the top, it says G parted live 2 GB. That's because G parted live is already on this stick. Big deal. I'll blow it away and reinstall. I'm going to click on select, and I'm going to it automatically open for me in my distro folder. It probably won't do that in yours. You have to get to your download folder where you have the ISO images. This is my G parted. I'm going to click on it and click on open. And it changes some of the values in here. No great shakes. And I'll click the start button. It wants to know how you want to write out the ISO image to the flash drive. I always leave it in the recommended. This DD image is a Linux tool that I haven't used as yet, so I don't know what it's even like. But DD I know is a Linux command. If I were, I might use DD, say, on a terminal as a command with necessary parameters and do it from there. But there may be a way of doing the same thing in a graphical package. I just don't know at this point. Then I'm going to click OK. And then you get a warning that says everything that's on this drive is going to be blown away, unrecoverable. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to start deleting, formatting, and then putting the ISO image out on the drive. This will take at least 5 minutes, probably, maybe a few minutes longer.
So you want us to do this, or you?
Yes, if you can, go ahead and do it. And
Okay, so you put Rufus on your small USB?
Yeah, on the small drive.
Okay.
Trust me, this is the G part of you're putting out there.
Okay.
And it doesn't take up much space.
Okay, I lost my internet before you started any of this, so maybe you could just tell me. So what are we doing right now?
We're running Rufus, and we're putting G-parted on the small USB drive.
You're doing that on the Windows machine.
I lost my internet, so I missed the whole process. So I don't know what to do.
Well, I can't guide you on that one. I don't know how you lost it, but we hear you, so I don't know what's going on, Dennis.
I lost my internet connection about 10 minutes ago before you started this, so I really don't know what you're doing right now, so I missed it.
Supposed to open that?
Okay, did you come in by phone?
No, I'm on Zoom right now.
Oh, okay.
But I lost my Zoom connection about 10 minutes ago when you were about to do something. So whatever you're doing right now, I missed the past 10 minutes. I don't know what we're doing.
Well, offhand, we're just getting started creating a G-parted live on the small USB drive, and that's all there is to it. So you got to go to your download folder where you put Rufus.
Okay, I got it.
And launch it.
Launch Rufus, okay.
Then stick in your small drive into a USB port.
I got the USB in already.
Okay, then up at the top line of Rufus, it should tell you both what, if anything, is on the drive in general, like a folder, and the size of the drive.
Well, it's still hourglassing. It didn't open yet.
Okay. I don't know what the speed of your system is.
Are we supposed to execute Rufus? We are, aren't we?
Well, user account control. Do I want to let Rufus?
Yeah, you got to give the administrator's password.
Right. Okay.
It requires administrator privilege.
Do you want to allow Rufus to check for application updates?
Ignore that for the time being. You can do that later.
Okay. Okay. Now I see the Rufus.
Okay. Up at the top where it says device, that should be designating that drive you plugged in.
It is 32 gigabyte USB I put in.
Go over to click on select. It's a button.
Okay.
And point to your download folder where you've got the two ISO images and click on G-Parted Live.
Okay, let me find that.
Oh,
And all this is being videoed, and so with luck, we'll have a video that we can follow up with.
Okay, I'll double click on G Party Live or just
You can double click on it or single click and click on the open button at the bottom.
Okay.
And then go down to the bottom of Rufus and click on the start button.
okay. So now I put G-parted on there too?
You're only going to put the G-Parted on that small drive. And mine's done at the moment.
So just, so a device says my USB, boot selection says G Parted Live, and just click start.
Yeah, just press start. It'll
Okay.
start the whole process.
And then it asked me two things,
Yes.
two choices, write in ISO image mode or write in DD image mode.
DD is something to do with Linux, and I haven't played with that. I use the recommended write mode.
Okay, got it.
And then you're going to see another screen that's giving you a warning that it's going to wipe out anything on that drive. And you go ahead and do it.
It's telling me something else first. It says this image uses sys Linux, but this application only includes the installation files for
It
sys.
will try, if you've got your internet back, which apparently you do,
I do.
it's going to download some extras, is what
So
it's
just
that are required for that to run.
so I'll just hit yes to do this.
Yes. And then you get the warning and okay that.
Warning: all device will be destroyed. Okay, no problem. Click OK.
Yeah.
Now it just says
It's
deleting
working.
partitions. This will take a while. Okay.
That's right. Depending on the speed of the port and the speed of the flash drive, it will take probably 5 minutes. Now, in the meantime, I've stuck in my other drive. It says I've got Linux Mint 20.2 already on it, 64-bit version. It's 7.7 or it's an 8 gig flash drive. And this is what it's going to basically do. And I'm going to start mine now. And
Transfer.
I'm going to wipe out.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something else, Tim. A window popped up. It's on my drive E. Choose what to do with removable drives. Configure this drive for backup or open folder to view files or take no action.
Take no action for this.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
That's
Yeah,
a window. That's a Windows default thing.
Okay, yeah, Rufus status is copying ISO files. 50% done. Okay.
Yeah. Don't let Windows do anything at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Rufus on my system right now is putting Linux Mint 20 on my flash drive. And so when you get done with the G-parted flash drive, stick in the other drive in its place, and then proceed to select your ISO image and go for it. Oh, I got to stop mine. I forgot. In talking to you guys, I forgot what I forgot to select mine. Yeah. That's no big deal. I just have to restart this.
Now, just as a sidebar, the reason some Linux people sometimes use DD copy for an ISO is if they want to put more than one ISO on a flash drive.
Okay.
So you aren't overwriting the boot information every time.
Well, then basically you can use Yummy to do basically the same thing.
Exactly.
A little
There are many ways.
easier than DD.
Yes. DD is quite slow.
Yeah.
Okay, it finished the G parted, so I'm going to eject the USB.
Correct. Stick in the bigger drive. and go to select like I have on my system on the screen.
Now, do I close Rufus and
No,
just restart it?
there. Leave it there. Just stick in the new flash drive.
Okay.
Hit select. And in your download area, wherever you've got the ISO image for Linux Mint 20.2, either double click it or single click and click open.
Okay.
And now it will be ready to go. I'm going to click start. I'm going to OK that. And I'm going to OK that. And it's going to start the process of putting Linux Mint back on this drive.
And Rufus, Rufus is supposed to be on the small flash drive. So there's two things on the small flash drive, or is Rufus supposed to stay on your Windows?
It stays on your Windows. It's just a tool to put the ISO image onto the flash drive in a different format than an ISO compact image.
Tim?
Somebody mentioned my name?
So was I supposed to run that in Windows before I transfer these files?
That's the only way you can transfer them that they'll be any good.
Oh, well, I start over again.
You have
All right, I'll catch up.
You have to launch Rufus, so you got a screen like I'm displaying.
Okay.
And then stick the small stick in first. Click on select. Point to your download folder and select the Gparted Live. Double click it, and it'll populate the area. And you should be able to click on the start button, and it'll write everything out to the stick.
Tim, when I started it, I got a pop-up download required.
Yes. You got to say yes to it.
Okay.
What it's trying to tell you is it needs some additional files that it has to download as it's writing out to your disk, to your USB stick. And without them, it may not work.
Okay. I must have been watching to get the other drive when you explained that.
Yeah. I think what it tries to download is SE Linux.
I think it is, if I remember correctly.
And SE Linux is the framework which allows the entire USB drive to work.
Right.
Everything's gone.
But once you got it down on your system, it doesn't need it unless there's a new version.
Yeah, before I start the Linux Mint one, so I have the USB is pointing to Linux Mint. Let me just run through these other settings just to make sure they seem right. It says partition scheme, MBR, target system, BIOS or UEFI.
You just leave them alone. Unless you're on an odd system, you just leave those settings just as they are. And just click the start button.
And then write the ISO image again. Okay, got it.
If you have ever been able to boot from USB on your system, you probably don't need to change anything. And if you've had trouble, you know what you need to change.
No, they don't. I did send them an article, but a 10 to 1 says they either didn't read it or they didn't understand it.
God, I understand it.
No, what I mean is if in the past you've had difficulty and overcome it, you know what difficulties you overcame.
Odds are most Windows users have never tried to run a live stick.
Okay.
I never have.
Then we'll see tonight how it works.
Okay, Tim, after you get the departed on the one, you just pull out the drive, put in the other one, right?
That's right. And then select again from the download your Linux Mint 20.2, double click it, and then press start.
Okay,
That's all wrong. This is finished.
And of course, when pulling out a flash drive in Windows, you really need to hit the eject.
Right.
In some instances, that's true, but I'll say 99.9% of the time for me, I don't have the issue. Mostly because I don't pull them out too fast. The ejection makes sure that your buffers have been emptied before letting you pull it out.
Yep.
But I haven't seen that issue in a hell of a long time. The old systems, yeah, you had to do that because they didn't have enough horsepower, and the buffers didn't empty out to finish off the installation to the USB drive, and you pulled it out too soon, and nothing works.
That's right. That can happen.
Well, so far I haven't seen that happen, unless maybe like on your Gen 2 USB, you might have a situation where that problem is in vogue again because of the speeds involved.
Actually, it would be less of a problem because on my machine, due to the amount of RAM I've got, the caches and buffers empty out really fast.
Good.
I'm working from RAM. But I can understand how other people would have other issues.
Oh yeah, especially if anybody here's playing with 4 gigabytes, that could be a potential problem.
Yeah.
Okay, now for me, I have both my flash drives completed. How are the rest of you doing?
Mine are all done.
Good.
I did them last night.
Well, shame on you. You're getting ahead of the game.
I know. I've already played with Mint.
My machine's already set up,
Yeah.
but it was always there.
Hey, I've got so many machines set up, it's not funny.
I wonder who's got the really fast audio going.
How are you doing, Donna, on this?
I'm gonna watch Ken. It's messed up. So I thought I was supposed to put Rufus on the flash drive, and so I have to redo everything, and now I don't know where they are. So it's just don't worry about it. I'll watch him, and we'll get it.
Well, hopefully one of my videos will be good enough that when you can get your hands on it, you can walk through it.
Okay.
I'm still downloading the Mint.
You're downloading it now?
Not downloading, creating the ISO file. Sorry.
Okay, you're programming the stick with the
Yes.
ISO image. That's fine.
That's called burning the image.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. You can take the ISO image and put it on the flash drive. It won't do anything, but
Where will it go? I don't understand.
anyway, I'm on my Rufus. I'm going to click on close and close mine off.
There.
I'll set this back.
Oops. I opened Rufus. How do I get it? So I got it here. Open. Never mind.
Stop sharing.
Okay. It said select, right? And I chose this, right? I chose select, and then I go choose
Well,
this.
either it's thundering outside around my house, or my stomach's grumbling, and I just ate.
I need this PC.
My lights flickered here a little while ago, so
So I need to
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, there's supposed to be some bad storms going through, but
Yeah.
no tornado action until maybe tomorrow night again.
USB drive G. Okay. Here.
I get bumped off. It might happen.
Okay. Oh, okay, so it needs to go on. Place the files. Oh, you have it. Yeah, I'm gonna replace it with the Rufus. I gotta find it. Yeah, I just don't know what to.
94.6.
Okay, Peter, where are you at?
94.6.
Okay. How about you, Dennis?
I've downloaded both, but to be honest,
Somehow.
when I read the email, I didn't realize you were trying to do the install today, and I don't have my other machine ready. I just thought we were going to do this and talk about the thing, but I wasn't ready to do it.
Oh, I'm ready to do it. I've been ready to do it, except I've been working on some other stuff here that way time consuming. And who's GGG?
That's me. I was going to
Oh,
another
okay.
Zoom that I could point at my screen if
I'm
I
gonna
didn't
make it
know
empty.
there.
okay. I'm gonna have you guys tell me when everybody's ready.
Well, while everybody's waiting to tell you, how do I clear the ISO that I put on the wrong way? Because I just copied that file. I didn't use Rufus.
When you take Rufus and you put it on the drive the correct way, Rufus will blow it away.
Okay, it didn't blow it away. I opened Rufus, I picked select, I went and copied, I went to the file Linux, Mint, whatever, clicked on that, and then went to the flash drive, and it says there's not enough room. And I said, well, then
No, if you're on the small flash drive,
no, I'm
you're
on the big
supposed to
one.
use G
No,
part of
I'm using on the big drive,
Okay, on the big drive, how big is it?
16.
16 is way more than enough. It works on an
Okay.
8.
All right.
My flash
Okay.
drive here, that's 8, and it's got
Okay.
Linux Mint all over it. And
Okay.
room to spare.
All right. Good enough.
It doesn't find your 16.
Oh, it's not
See, when
finding
Rufus
it now.
does its act, that's why it gives you a warning. It's going to blow away anything that's on the drive. So that's so that if you didn't check the drive and you got something you want to keep, you got to copy that off to your computer first, because G-parted, when it's written onto that flash drive, is going to blow everything away. It's completely erasing everything on the drive. Then it installs the G-parted.
Hey Tim, when I look at the flash drive, I'm looking at it in Explorer, and it says basically 27 gigabytes free out of 29. In other words, it only took up 2 gigabytes of speed. Is that correct?
Well, that's for the G-parted.
No, this is for the Linux Mint.
No, Linux Mint takes a little over 4.
Well, it's saying that I have 27 gigabytes free out of 29. So that's only 2 gigabytes after it went through Rufus.
Hang on a minute here.
Okay. Come here.
Here's Linux Mint. And this is everything that I put out there on that 8 gigabyte drive. Now, if I right click,
Okay.
select properties, it says I did use 2.1
Copy this
gigabytes,
to the drive.
and I got 5 gigs free.
Okay, and then what?
So that part's right. Now, if
Okay,
I
and
take
then
that stick out,
I'm sorry, someone else is talking and I couldn't hear you.
that's Ken Don. Now,
It just-
I put in the G-Parted live disk, and that's what it put out there. And the properties on the G-Parted drive says it took 396 megabytes. So if I had another 512 megabyte flash drive, I could have used it and still had space left that was empty.
Somebody was talking and I missed what you said. Is the Linux Mint flash drive therefore only 2 gigabytes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it is 2 gigabytes.
Actually, I normally don't look at the sizes, but they go up to 3+ gigabytes, depending on what version of program. All right. Now, is there anybody still not done?
I'm done.
Well done or only partially done? Around
All
here,
done.
it'd be well done.
All done.
All right. I'm gonna switch cameras on my end.
I need to make it over here now.
Okay, now this is the running Linux system we're gonna replace. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and do a shutdown, and this will turn off the machine. Then I'm gonna plug in my G-Parted live flash drive, and then I'm gonna start it up, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And like it should, there's the image. It automatically loaded because I have my BIOS set to legacy to make sure it doesn't cause me a problem. If yours runs without that change, that's fine, no issue. But otherwise, if it's giving you a headache, then it's a case where you have to change your BIOS from UEFI secured boot to a legacy drive. And right now it's booting up the G-Parted live. Now, in addition, an issue you'll come up with is changing your boot sequence in your BIOS. Why do you want to try and do that? The biggest reason you want to do it is that in the BIOS, normally it would be booting up the hard drive first every time. You want to switch that around to like USB first, CD second if you still got a CD drive, and have the hard drive as the third device. And that's why mine booted up. Now, the first screen, it's very difficult to try and read that. I will grant you. I'm trying to adjust the camera a little bit, and that's probably as good as I'm going to get it.
Tim, it's working better if you tilt the screen of that computer a little ways away from the camera. Because what you're getting is glare when it's completely perpendicular.
Well, this is probably the best I can do with the space I've got here.
That's better.
I think you're good enough.
All right, the first thing it's asking for is a keyboard. Since we're probably all using normal American English, leave it at the do not touch and just press enter. Oops.
Wrong keyboard.
I hit the wrong enter key.
Wrong keyboard.
Okay. Now it's going down and hang on for 1 second here. I got to get rid of something on my end. Okay, now it's asking you languages, and it defaults to American English. So just hit the enter key again on the right computer. Then it asks you, which mode do you prefer? And it defaults to 0, which is to continue with Start X. Start X is a graphical display like we're used to on Windows or a Mac. So just hit enter a third time, and now it's going to launch, I hope, our graphical interface. Yay. And that's Gparted. I hate this balancing having to do with all this. I don't have a choice. All right. Now, some of you asked a question a while back about all the stuff you might have out on your hard drive. Well, my SSD or hard drive has all this out there, but we don't want it. So we're going to get rid of it, and it's quite easy to do. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say delete. Then I'm going to go to the next line and do the same thing again. And the top line, I'm going to right click on it and do delete. Nothing is now allocated on the system.
Tim, question. Do you prefer to move from the end or the right-hand side of that display from right to left? Is that a preference of yours, or is that just the way that it came out?
I just happen to do it that way. I've been doing it that way even with Windows for years.
Yeah, because you're deleting from the end of the drive toward the beginning, and I was wondering whether there's a reason for doing that.
Well, it always takes whatever you deleted now unallocated area and normally wants to put it on the bottom anyhow. So I just start with the last partition, delete it. It's unallocated, move up the line until I've got everything completed, deleted. Now,
okay.
Here's a trick for the newbies. Gparted has a list here of everything that you told it to do in the order that you told it to do it. But guess what? It hasn't done anything to the drive yet. So if I hit this back arrow, it'll erase all of what I just did. If I hit this check mark, it's going to actually do the deletes that I have listed there. I can do that right now, or I can start doing my partitioning, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to right click on here on this unallocated area. I'm going to click on new, and as far as it's concerned, I'm going to create 1 megabyte of free space. I can't get around that. That's I forget how to explain it, but it's something to do with individual drives. Then it's going to allocate all the rest of the space to the partition. That I do not want to do. What I want is I'm going to back this number up if I get the right keyboard. And I'm going to do 15, give me a minute. 360. Now, the partition I'm creating is roughly half of this capacity of this small, tiny drive that I'm using for this experiment. Then I'm going to come over here. It says it's going to make it a primary partition, which is just fine. I don't have a problem. It will not let me put a partition name in. I haven't figured out why, and I'm not going to worry about it. Next, it's going to set it up as ext4. This is pretty standard. It's a generalized file system of Linux. There's also a 2 and a 3. And I think they may still even support the original ext. There's a whole bunch of other ones we're not going to get into. Most of them are for commercial use on servers and stuff like that. Label. Now this helps me. I'm going to call this, again, I got to get the right keyboard. ROOT. I'm making that root. And I'm going to click the add button. So now I have a new partition. It's a ext4 partition format, and it's called root as a label. I'm going to click on the unallocated area again. I'm going to select new again. Nothing in free space is going to be in front of this partition. This is how much is left on this drive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this number. Hang on 1 second here. Mostly because I forgot what I was partially doing here. So I'll cheat a little bit. And I've got 15,173 minus 6. When you're around the computers as much as me or Bob, Matt, you'll learn a lot of the numbers. 1 gigabyte of information is 1,024 megabytes. It always, it's not 1,000, it's 1,024 for a gigabyte.
Yeah, there's some complication about that. But anyway, I don't actually know the numbers because I'm like Albert Einstein. If I wanted to know the number, I can look it up.
Yeah, it's not that I want to remember it. It's the way my brain happens to work, and it I tend to do things frequent enough that I know what they are. Now, This one here, I'm going to label HOME. That's going to be my home partition. And got to get over and do an add. Now, what's left here is 4 gigs. I'm going to click new. I'm leaving the 4 gigs by itself, but I'm going to come over here to where it says extent 4, and I'm going to go down to Linux swap and create a swap file. And I'll just label it swap. And I'll click on add. So now, sorry, I have nearly everything I want as far as the partitions are concerned. None of them have been formatted yet. When I click on that green checkbox in gparted, that's when it'll format each of the drives. But I'm going to go back to partition 1. I'm going to no, I take that back. I've got to do the actual actions I have listed. So I'm deleting 3 partitions. I'm creating 3 new partitions, and I'm going to tell it apply. I forgot I have to pause a little bit on this. It says I'm all done. Now, I'm going to come in here and now I'm on the first partition called SDA1. There's no letters in anything but Windows. Windows has drive C, D, E, F, G through Z. And if you have a floppy drive, you got A and B possible. But I'm right-clicking on the SDA1, which is designated as root. I come down to Manage Flags, and this part here, I'm forgetting something, I know that. Oh. All right. It's not going to let me do it in Gparted. I thought I did it before, but it's not going to let me do it. So I'll double check here. Basically, everything here is ready. And I'm going to come up to the top here on the my left side. There's a stop button. I'm going to click on the stop button. Usually it takes a double click.
Oh, that's an exit?
Pardon?
Labeled exit?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's going to default to reboot, but you could do a shutdown. I'm going to have it do a reboot. But I'm going to first stick my Linux distribution USB drive in first.
Now, why did you make 3 partitions?
Pardon?
Why are you setting up 3 partitions?
The reason for that is for both kind of safety and performance. You want a separate swap drive. And if you have the easy installation, it creates one large partition. Some of them will put a swap file inside the partition, kind of like Windows does on drive C, but that's not as good as having a separate partition. Number 2, the SDA2 is the home directory. Any programs you install, any setting changes you do are recorded there per user of the system. And if Linux becomes so corrupted, all I have to do is replace the content of the root partition, and it'll see the other 2 partitions and automatically pick up the information that's in them to help you get everything set up correctly. So I'm going to click OK here, and I'm going to pull out my Gparted drive. I got another visitor. All right. Now this is the startup of Linux Mint. And I'm going to just press enter. It does a automatic countdown if you don't respond. And once it gets to that point, it starts loading things up automatically.
Did you reboot your system? I don't understand what we just did.
Well, if you watched the screen and listened, we were in the Gparted, and I said, double-click the exit key. And it said right there on the screen, it was going to do a reboot. So what do you think it did?
Well, honestly, maybe I'm the only one that has it, but I can't read anything. I couldn't read anything on the screen. It was all blurry.
Well, I can't improve this.
Yeah.
If you want to get me a video installation, that'd be terrific. we can do a professional job on it. But as is, I got to do with what I've got.
Oh, sure. I understand.
Anyway, what is on the screen right now here is Lennox Smith running off of the flash drive we created. And you can do a lot of things with this in this state. However, we're going to go here where it says install Lennox Mint. And I'm going to double click that to start the process. And this goes through a bunch of screens. It wants to know what language I speak. And I thought I was speaking English, but you're trying to prove I'm not. And I'm trying to adjust this.
Well, Tim, I think the problem with not noticing the restart is your machine restarted very fast, and it did not go through a BIOS post.
Well, see, the bottom line is this is a Dell 3010 i3 fourth generation system.
But it's EFI boot, so you don't see a post.
Yes.
So basically, a restart on that machine can be very fast, and it can be very transparent.
Yes. Boy, I'm having a hard time with this screen trying to get it so you can see
There
it.
we go.
There we go. I got to just bring it down further. All right. It's asking, it's saying, welcome. Your language is defaulted to English unless you change this. And down here is a continue button in the bottom right corner. I'm going to click on that, go to the next screen. And basically all this is saying is the keyboard layout, etc., is going to be all US English standard. And then it's looking and it wants to know if it's kind of like asking you, do you want to install multimedia codecs? Now, it depends on whether you plan on using your system to play videos on, etc., in which case you may need it. I happen to do it because I do plan on doing it, so I put a check mark in front of install multimedia codecs.
Yeah. And Tim, I think nearly everybody these days, that would be a good convenience to have.
Well, if you're honestly not going to do videos, they're not going to do you any good. But I'm doing some videos, so I positively have them. I would recommend it. It doesn't take up that much space.
The only caveat is on older systems where you know the video codecs might not even work, leave them off.
Yeah, but hopefully we're not that far back. I did a continue. It's now coming up, but this computer currently has no detected operating system. I hope not. I blew it away. Now it's got me, given me two possibilities. Erase the entire disk and install Mint. If you take that one, which is selected at the moment, it's going to erase the 3 partitions I created with a Gparted, and then it's going to make a single partition install of Linux Mint. If you want the better performance, you come down here where it says something else and click the radio button in front of something else. And we're going to continue. And this is almost impossible to see. Let me play with this a little bit. See,
That's better.
Okay. Well, I get a glare too, and it gets blurry, but some of it I can make out besides looking at the real screen. Now, here's the one thing we have to do before we continue on. I'm going to click on SDA1, which I labeled originally root. I'm going to click on change. And then I come down here in the middle of that box where it says use as, and it says do not use the partition, baloney. We're going to click there, and we're going to select extent 4, again, journaling. I'm going to go ahead and click a check mark in format the partition. And the most important thing is this bottom box. I'm going to drop down the list, and I want the very first line up here. All there is on that line is a /. That's the designation for root. And then I'm going to click OK. And it before you can select a new partition, any size, et cetera, you can undo this. No, I'm going to continue. Now I'm going to select, as soon as this part's done here, and it stops whirling, I'm going to select on SDA2, click change. I'm going to say, come here, extent journal 4. I'm going to put a check mark to format the partition. I'm going to go to the mount point. And this one, I'm going to select /home. And this is where your personal folder, if you know a little bit about...
Tim, you're going a little fast.
Pardon?
You're going a little fast.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'm at an install now off the first. So then I click the second one.
Here's the SDA1.
Okay.
And if I click change, it's telling me exactly what I put in.
Right.
Ignore the size. I changed used as extent 4 journaling file system. I put a check mark in front of format the partition. And the mount point is just a / by dropping the arrow there. The first item is a / and that means root. That's where the whole operating system is going to go.
Right.
Now, and then I just click
No,
OK.
I don't have it.
Now I'm going to.
You clicked OK?
Yeah.
No.
I don't have an OK. I have that screen that you're on right now. Okay.
Okay.
I'm at that screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you should see this check mark here under format. Okay. And under mount point, you see a /.
Right.
That means it's set. It's all ready to go when we continue on. Now, under SDA2, I click it to highlight it. I click change. Ignore again the size. Use as, again, extent 4 journaling file system. I put a check mark in front of format the partition. I drop down the list and I select /home if you look at the screen. And once I've done that, I click OK. Okay. Now, when I look at SDA2, it says extent 4 /home and a check mark that it will be formatted. Now I'm going to go to the third partition, swap. I'm going to click on change.
All this on the disk, right? You're doing all this on the flash drive, correct?
No, you're doing this. This is to the actual machine you're trying to install.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I already have Linux Mint on it though, so do I have to erase that or format it again or something?
Well, that depends on how you installed it. If you installed it as a single partition, I would. If
Okay.
you've got it with at least 3 partitions, then I would say leave it alone.
Okay, how do I erase the existing hard drive?
That's where the G part came in.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and click that. Thank you.
Now
Let me just jump in just a quick second, because Donna, if you're doing this on your computer, remember you did a dual boot with Windows, so is it?
No, I'm doing the laptop. That's only Linux, so I'm okay.
All right,
Okay.
I'm backing off.
Yeah,
That's good.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, we don't want to confuse anybody with dual boot issues now.
Yeah, that's a whole bailiwick by itself. I clicked on the swap drive line, which is SDA3, to highlight it. I clicked on change, brought up the box. It says swap area. And I am going to try and select format to partition. It will not let me. That's A-OK with me. And I just click OK.
Tim, I think we should emphasize the swap partition is a non-formatted partition.
Yes, but I thought since I formatted the other 2, I would show them that if you try and select format the partition, it won't let you. So, where are we standing right now with those that are following along on this?
I'm where you're at.
Okay. Anybody else where I'm at?
Okay.
Well, it's Donna again. I put the disk in. I loaded gparted, but then how do I make it format?
How do you make it what?
Do the format. I opened it and I get all these things. Boot, da 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 da. How do I make it format the disk? I went ahead. I put the flash drive in and I clicked gparted and it installed. So then I double clicked or clicked once anyway, gparted, but it didn't format my disk.
I think you missed an awful lot. I'm not sure exactly when
Okay.
and where
Yeah.
and how.
All right. Well, I'll watch your video then.
Yeah, you're
I'll
going to
just
have
keep
to.
listening.
You're going to
Okay.
have to watch the video.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to click on the button down the bottom right. It says install now. And it's going to give you some messages again. We haven't applied anything. I can go back and make additional changes if I realize I forgot something, and I can keep going. Once I hit continue, it's going to apply all the changes and there's no going back. You'd have to start from scratch. So I'm going ahead and I'm going to do an install.
It's gonna take some time.
Let's continue, right?
Yep. No, it says install now in the bottom right. And then I did a continue. Okay so far?
I keep,
Hello?
I got a whirling globe.
You got this map.
Now I do, yes.
Okay. How about anybody else? All right. Mine's defaulting to Indianapolis. If yours, Peter, is on Indianapolis, you got a problem.
It is showing Honolulu, which is close enough for me.
I'm clicking to the right of the red dot that was for Indianapolis, and it says Chicago on mine now. This is your time zone designation. You can do this after the fact in a different manner. I'm going to click continue. Shut up. I got a rotten cat here.
That's what that is?
Pardon?
That's what that is?
Yeah. That
Maybe
or
it was
something that
hungry.
needs oil. All right. Now comes the fun part from my point of view. Now, the system's going to do part of the work for you, and part of it you got to do. So it wants to know your name. So I'm going to stick mine in, if I can spell it. It says the computer name's an Optiplex 3010 by Dell. The username is going to be Tim. I can change that, but Linux is a little bit of a strange beast. It likes the username in all lowercase letters, and it abbreviates all to hell. If there were multiple people on here with the name Tim, we would have to probably modify that with like the first initial or more information to identify each Tim. Next is the password. Now, for me, the login password, normally speaking on a Windows system and to some extent on a Mac, doesn't have to be a very strong password. It's mostly to keep out nosy busybodies. At least that's the way I look at it. However, on Linux, this password gives you not only the ability to log into the system, that's your administrator password. And every time it asks you for administrator's authority, that's the same keyword, password you have to key in. If you don't get it right, well, good luck. So I'm gonna get down here. Hang on a minute. I'm using the tab key to get down to the password field, and I'm gonna put in my password. And it says it's only a fair password, and trust me, the cats aren't interested enough to try and watch what I'm keying in and then gain access to my computer. So I'm not worried. I have to type it in a second time to confirm it. I get a check mark instead of an error message, and I do require a password on login. I do not like automatic login because that means anybody who comes along can gain access to my computer. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that's a lazy person's way of doing things. I'm going to click continue. I got the wrong mouse, that's why. Darn it. I put it down to get the keyboard. Okay, there we go. Now we're actually installing the operating system. They're giving you an infomercial of the Linux and some of its features. If I take and bring that down again to try and reduce glare. There we go. It's not totally readable, but it's better than it was. Oops. Okay. There's more than one way of skinning the cat on this stuff. Boy, this cat doesn't want to give up. It takes her a long time to get the message. All right. Now, it's saying, hey, with Firefox, with Netflix, YouTube, you can watch this stuff on the web. Well, that's your choice. And we're configuring the hardware right now. really this whole process is not that bad. I've seen a lot worse systems that I've set up, but Ubuntu, Linux, Mint, and a few others based on those two usually do a pretty good job of installing pretty easily. But this goes back to the question about why I set it up with 3 partitions. And it really gets into the way you want to have Linux set up in the first place, and you'll get better performance out of your system. But you can do it the single partition way. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. It will still work. It's just not quite as efficient, in particular because of the swap file. Depending on the distro you're using, it may not have a swap file at all, or it has some of the free space in that one large partition being used as a swap file, just like in Windows has the new page file. Okay, now, technically speaking, I'm done, at least with the hard part, I guess is the best way to put it. Let's see if I can get that to clear up.
Again, triangling the screen away from you a little. Yeah, it's beginning to work.
There's something anyway. All right, installation is complete. I can go back, continue testing, which means run things from the live flash drive we are currently running on, or click restart now. I'm going to click restart now.
I'm still catching up.
And now, what it's trying to tell you here at the moment is it detects my live drive still plugged in to the front of my computer. It wants me to remove the installation flash drive and then press the enter key. And it'll complete the reboot and continue on to boot up the new installation of Linux.
Hopefully.
Gee whiz, it worked. Nuts. I thought we were going to spend the rest of the night on this. Anybody got an oil can? I'm going to get the squeak out of my ear.
Oh.
All right. Now, this is pretty standard to many of the Linuxes based on Debian, which Ubuntu and Mint are based upon. It's telling me I have 20.2. I go to the first steps here, and I can take and change my desktop color, which right now is kind of like a charcoal, as you can see. And I'm going to bring that back up, and I'm going to select green and see what it does. And right now, I'm going to click on that. That's changes this to dark mode versus light mode. Same as on Windows and Macintosh.
Well, that's clear.
Next, we have panel layout. I select modern, not the old traditional way. I prefer it. And it highlighted and it accepted that information. Snapshots I haven't gotten into deep yet, so I'm going to skip that one. Driver manager. You might notice that you have a piece of hardware that isn't running, and you might need to go into driver manager to find a driver if one's available to activate that device. So I'm going to come down further. We have the update manager. I'm going to launch it. And it's giving me some verbiage here about welcoming me to the update manager, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let you read your own screen. I'm going to click OK. Now, this is very important. It's saying, from what I just installed, there is a new version of the update manager available. I always apply this update. And it's a quick download, but it's asking me for that password. If I don't give it the password, it's not going to do it. And I'm authenticated, and it downloaded. It's installing right now. And it says all 58 updates were selected. The total 268 megabytes of download. And that's just for the install modules. But you're going to find out quite often you'll have extra libraries that have to be downloaded to support one or more of these changes. So I'm going to click on install, and this is what I'm talking about. All this has to be brought in also, so I click OK. Again, I got to give the password. Pardon me. Okay, it's now downloading all those 58 packages, and then it'll install each of them. This usually doesn't take very long. If any of the modules, such as a kernel update, are in the download update, then you're going to have to do a reboot of the computer when the update is completed. If there are no major modules, a lot of times you get away without having to reboot and just go on about using your system.
Jim, I got a question.
Go ahead.
I have an Intel machine, and every time, every once in a while, it shows up as AMD.
That's odd. Because both of my machines here are Intel-based machines, and in fact, probably at least half of my machines are Intel. The other half are AMD.
In Linux, there are two different ways of designating AMD. AMD 64 is any 64-bit machine, whereas so everything's going to say AMD. It's going to say AMD 64. There's no such thing as Intel 64.
Okay.
So it is not a
question.
It is not identifying your computer or your processor.
Okay.
It is identifying your bitedness. That's AMD 64. It's also known in Windows as x64. But that's just 64-bit. No big deal. I have an Intel machine too, and it does that to me. My machine is Intel through and through.
I didn't think about what you mentioned there, Nat, because somebody asked me about which version of Mint to download, and supposedly he got the right one. And I forgot the fact that it does say AMD 64, and I'm installing it on Intel platform. Just didn't register.
The only thing about Intel that Linux sometimes needs is some extra modules in the kernel to support the drivers. For that matter, with most AMD systems, you would need some extra drivers as well.
Well, actually, I've had quite good luck in not noticing I needed added drivers.
That's probably because you were getting the kernel and maybe even the extras.
Could be.
But that's what is meant in Ubuntu by the kernel extras. The
Okay.
kernel extras will include some proprietary drivers.
Well, hopefully nobody needs them, but if you do, you do.
Modern machines frequently need them. Mine did.
Well, gentlemen, I figured out why I had the problem at the beginning. I had 2 flash drives plugged in. So when
You can have both plugged in. Listen, you can have both plugged in at the same time.
that was the mess up.
Just a
So
minute.
that's why
Listen,
I had to start all over again. So that's why I'm behind, but I will watch the video, I promise, and
yes
catch
or no?
up.
See, the thing is, you can have both plugged in. At the top of Rufus, where it tells you the drive, it also tells you the size. You can switch between what drive that you want to use for a particular ISO burning.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. That's an extra step that happens if you have 2 drives installed. You select one based on size.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I went with one drive at a time, not both
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah,
that's
it avoids.
why mine didn't work earlier, but I redid it.
Yeah.
So I'm at here. Anyway.
Yeah. Tim's way avoids a lot of confusion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I was trying to
Thank you.
avoid seriously. In fact, on a lot of machines, I could plug in maybe 4 to 6 different versions of flash drive. I just have to select which one is getting what put on it first. Then I select what I'm putting on it, and then I burn it.
And trust me, having several different drives, especially if they're all the same size and the same brand, you're going to drive yourself nuts. It even
Yes,
happens
you
to me.
will. Absolutely, you will. Now, from this update, it says a reboot is going to be required for me to continue on. So, offhand, it also has in blue, do you want to switch local mirror, yes or no? I ignore it most of the time because I haven't had an issue. So right at the moment, I'm going to X out of that, and I'm going to wait on doing the reboot for just a few minutes. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is come down to system settings. I'm going to launch that. And by the way, what I'm doing there by not rebooting right away doesn't hurt a thing. At least I have never had a bad experience. Now, on appearance, backgrounds, I originally had this changed, and some of you who saw the early screen might have seen it, but in either case, this is the standard Linux Mint install screens you can select from. But you can go back to the prior version, and it has a whole bunch of these in there. And then Here's the next one that was a little bit newer, and you got a bunch of backgrounds there. UMA is the current version of images, and if I remember right, mine was on this page. Yes, I selected Maldives, and I'm gonna come over here to the left side top and hit the back arrow. And I'm going to move my screen down a little bit, and you can start seeing the change in the background. And that's the Maldives image. We'll bring this back up some. Effects I don't mess with. I'll let you play around with that, along with themes. If you want to change the font for something you think is more readable for you, that's fine. Preferences, accessibility. Sometimes on some machines, I need one or two settings in here to help make the display a little bit better than it otherwise would be, such as high contrast, large text, if you have a vision problem. Screen reader, if you want to turn that on. Enable zooming, you have, and that's for visual. For keyboard, you have a variety of different settings here. Typing assistant, you have sticky keys, particularly for people with handicap with their hands and arms might need sticky keys. This allows you to press down an Alt key or a Control key and then tap another key, and the computer sees the combination of keys. Slow keys and bounce keys. Bounce keys I've never heard of before, but whatever. It has to do with duplication of key presses. So the longer you hold down a key, it'll keep repeating itself umpteen times. Mouse, I have used some things in here, not on Linux, but on some of my Chromebooks. It's got one nice little feature that puts a red circle around the mouse pointer. And I wish I had that on Windows and on all the Linuxes. Account details. There's only one account out there right now, yourself. Then I'm going to come back again to here, applets. Applets, pardon? Applets are various things that come pre-installed or you can add to it, such as you got calendar, it's got a check mark, but you can add a control in here for the display, for the resolution, and some other characteristics. You got favorites, you got a group window list, and a bunch of others. You can also download new ones that aren't out there, such as the weather, cinema menu. I assume that's to do with video playing. CPU temperature indicator, all kinds of little things. Now I'm going to go back to the settings, preferences, and date time. That's an important one. Now it is showing up at the moment as America, Chicago. It might be close by. Now I come down here. It says 24-hour clock. And if you look down, well, it's almost off the screen right now. Let's see if I can get it back. Yeah, you can just barely see it right now. Down in the bottom right corner, it's got a 24-hour military clock. I don't care for it, so I uncheck that. And I display the date, but I don't display the seconds, and I don't do first day of the week default. Now, that's pretty much that on the date and time. So as you can see, down in the bottom right, I have the day of the week, the month, the day, and a 12-hour clock. Makes it much nicer from my point of view. Now I'm going to go back to the settings again. Pardon? I'm back here. You have desk splits. I haven't gotten into that, the desktop, and some other odds and ends that we'll eventually get into. And so I'm pretty much set with these as is. And I scroll down, and you got hardware preferences, including display, graphics, tablet if you got one, changes to your keyboard, network I want to get into. I only have wired on this system, and it's what I'm going to do is come down here to the bottom right of the screen. There's a little gear wheel in a little square box. Click on that, and I go to IPv4. I have only 4 in my area. I do not have IPv6. So I go into this middle section here. It says DNS server, and I'm going to put in open DNS addresses 208.67.222.222. Oops. Oh, I didn't have my num locks on. Dumb. I do this on all my machines. I don't care what the OS is. Now, on some versions of Linux, you would have to follow this with a comma, space, and the secondary address. In many of these Debians, like Ubuntu and Mint, I'm going to click on the plus key, and this allows me another blank line to put in the secondary address, which is 208.67.220.220. See, I did this so many times, I got this friggin' memorized. And I click apply. So now when I go out to the internet, it's going to use OpenDNS in order for getting a translation of a human readable URL address into the actual numeric address of the server I'm trying to go to. You have sound. System info is a little thin, but it says I got Linux Mint 20.2 out there. I've got kernel 5.4.0-74 right now, but it may change when I reboot the computer. It's an Intel Core i3 third generation. I'm mixing it up. I have a fourth generation in a 3020 computer that looks exactly the same. I've got 8 gigs of memory, and the hard drive is only 32 gigabytes in size. Graphics is whatever's built into the motherboard. And then I come back out here, and I'm going down to the bottom, firewall. Personally speaking, I want the firewalls on all my systems turned on. Many Linux users don't, and I don't know what all their reasoning is for it. I don't think it, I'm only using the basic settings. So I click here, the start button on status, and the basic rules are in. I can add rules, I can check reports, and I can check the log file as to what's going on my system if I think there's some nefarious person or a worm trying to get into my system. So that takes care of really settings. Now, software manager. And by the way, the last one on this page is the firewall. So I could have set up firewall here. But at any rate, I'm going to launch software manager. Now, what it's doing is it's going out and getting the information that it needs to display things. Now, if I'm going to watch a lot of videos on there, I can download VLC, and it does a pretty damn good job, man. It's hard to find something better, but usually there are things out there that you might want. But I'm going to click on the category Internet. Now there's Firefox with a green circle. That means it's installed. Down below it is Chromium. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on Install, and it's going to put Chromium on my computer as soon as I give it a password.
Yeah.
Pardon me. And I'm not going to launch it. I'm not going to remove it. I'm going to use the back arrow, come back to the list. And I'm going to come up here to the box. I'm going to put in ZOOM, and it did not find it in this group. So I'm going to see if I can come back out here to the main page and search the whole download and see if it's got it. There it is. It found it in a different category than Internet. Why? Easily. At any rate, I'm going to click on that.
Oh, Zoom.
I'm going to install, and it needs all this other stuff that it's listing here to make it work correctly. So I just click on continue, and it's going to download all that, and it's going to install it completely to make sure that it works correctly. And at the moment, those are the only changes I'm making to the system, other than I'm going to put those two pieces of software I just installed onto my taskbar. And that'll, I'll call it quits at that point on the installation, and open it up to any additional questions we can address at this time.
Tim, on my installation of 20.2 is I don't have the internet. And
are you using Wi-Fi?
Yes.
That's the reason why. And I didn't get into that because it's a little tougher to set up than Ethernet. If you've got Ethernet available, just plug in an Ethernet cable to the back of the router and into your machine, and you should be able to have the internet access.
Right. Well, Donna has that on her machine. I can do this on this, but this is a laptop portable, which I'd like to be able to pick up the Wi-Fi.
Oh, yes, you can. You just don't have a tool. Hang on a minute.
Okay.
See, I'm a tech.
Okay.
So, and I've got plenty of systems that do not have an Ethernet port on them too. So hang on 1 minute.
Now, Wi-Fi setup in either Ubuntu or Mint is quite simple.
Oh, yeah.
You can do the same thing you do in Windows, just choose the network, know what your password is, plug it in the first time, and it'll remember from then on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite simple.
But I didn't want to get into that bailiwick at this time. I don't know if you can see this clearly. This is a cute little device. It's USB, as you can see by the one end, and on this end, that's an Ethernet jack. So all I have to do is take this little device, plug it into a USB port, plug an Ethernet cable into this device here, and I have Ethernet connectivity on anything that's got a USB port.
Right.
It only costs $4.
Okay. No problem there, but I don't want to use that. I want to use Wi-Fi.
Well, I understand, but that's what I'm getting at is I didn't want to get into that because it's a little bit of a headache from my standpoint because we each have different. Using the wrong mouse again. I'm going to X out of that, and I'm going to X out of this welcome screen. I'm going to come down to the start. I'm going to hit the shutdown, and I'm going to change it to restart. And it's going to restart the computer and bring it back up so I can log back in. But Wi-Fi, I have that set up on my laptops also. But I have the option of using that Ethernet connection. And I have both in my house as far as that goes. But when it comes to doing Wi-Fi, some of the Linux distros are more difficult to set up than others. And Bob is right, but I didn't want to add that level of complexity for people feeling that what we've just gone through is more than enough. And
There's no complexity to it.
Well,
Can we handle it by email then?
that depends upon each individual. After
Well, I
all,
can't get email.
Peter's the only one, along with Wayne, that's close to being up to date. Now, this welcome screen came back up again. It does have access to your Linux documentation, help, and if you want to contribute to the makers, you can do that too. Down at the bottom right, it says show this dialog box at startup. It's got a check mark in it. I take the check mark out and I close that window. It's still there on your system on the start menu. It's just, I don't want it in my way. So the next thing I want to do, I want to bring up the menu, go to the internet, and I see two things in here. Chrome. I'm going to, Chromium, excuse me. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to select add to panel. And what we call the taskbar in Windows is called the panel in Linux. I'm going to come up here again to the internet, and down at the bottom is Zoom. And I'm going to right click that, add to panel. Now,
This won't work unless I'm on the internet, Tim.
Yeah, I understand, Wayne. It's just a case where I didn't want to get into it, but I'll get into it now. I'm going to go to here, but I can't show you everything. There's a reason why. This is a desktop. It has no Wi-Fi on it. So I'm limited in what I'm going to be able to show you here. And
If worst comes to worst, I can share my screen.
If you've got share capability, I'm not sure it's set up.
If you allow it, I can, or if Jerry allows it.
Well, Gary would be best to do that. But if you come down here, and I'm going through all apps. I'm scrolling through all apps. there's two places, one that says network, and there's another one up farther that is supposed to be an easier way of setting up, here it is, advanced network configuration. And advanced network configuration might be the simplest way of getting that Wi-Fi up and going. And,
Tim, I want to stop you now. You're getting way, way too deep. It is not necessary.
All right.
But I can only show what the Ubuntu GNOME desktop shows. It isn't exactly the same as the Mint desktop. But I think you have the same sorts of things. Could I just, if you don't want to get into this, just say so.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I want to share my screen.
Go ahead.
In Ubuntu, this is what it will look like. It will be different in Mint in terms of the layout.
Hang loose.
But here's what we have.
I may have to switch mine out. Okay, you got yours. Go ahead.
I'm in. Now, I have, can you see the upper right of my screen?
Yeah.
In the far upper right corner?
I can see part of it.
Okay, I have lots of different icons up there.
Right.
And one of them is just a circle with a line through it,
Right.
or there's a drop-down arrow. Now, can everybody see what drops down here? Does that show up?
No.
A volume control.
Do you see any writing in a box?
No.
Because those may not show up.
Well, hang on one second, Bob. I've got a black square on the right side of the screen. It's
That's what I was afraid of. The drop-down menu does not show up. So I may not be able.
It shows up on mine for some reason.
Yeah, the black thing.
I can read the Asus USB. I can see the microphone, the sunshine.
Okay, let's ignore the top few things. Those who can see. Let's ignore the top few things up to that line because those are various system controls. There's something that says Hilltop, which is the name of my network. That's where we have wireless networking here. And I can go into settings and show you. And then it'll say select network as I hit the drop down arrow. It'll be select network. Now let me see if I can go into settings and you all may be able to see. All right, I'm in settings now. Can you see the settings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Top of the line, Wi-Fi. Next will be network, which is exactly what Tim has been doing. I have my cable unplugged, so I don't have Ethernet. So Wi-Fi. And all I do is select something. And do you see what pops up? Is there something visible?
Right?
Yeah, it looks like a Windows authentication for networking.
And that's exactly what Ubuntu will show. And I think Mint is very similar.
Yeah.
In your settings, when you hit Wi-Fi, this is what you will see. And it only asks you whether it's WPA. The authentication is usually going to be something you don't change. Certificate, I don't have one. And that sort of thing. Now, I can show the password, and you the first time that you log onto a network, it will ask for the password. And that will be a little pop-up box. And it's very, very similar to how you do it in Windows. Now, if Tim wants to show another way, I'd love to see it.
Well, I can't, like I said, see, it's got my network one, and it shows wired, and a proxy. And normally you'd come down here to the plus sign if you have Wi-Fi, and it would give you options for setting up the Wi-Fi. Since there's no Wi-Fi on it, I can't show it.
Okay, so in Mint, you're saying you don't have a separate, if you have Wi-Fi available, you don't have a separate listing in settings that says Wi-Fi.
Correct.
So you have to hit a plus in order to do Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the plus sign gives you the extra features that are not there by default.
So Mint does differ from Ubuntu in that regard.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in front of a notebook right now that's connected by Wi-Fi to my router. And down in the panel on the right-hand side, where on the screen that you're looking at now, you've got those three little icons in a triangle, which is the wired network. I also have a fan, which is the Wi-Fi fan. And just like in Windows, you click on it and all you do is log into your router. So it is very simple without having to go through a dialog box. It's just like on Windows.
Well, the first setup that you will be presented with a dialogue on your first setup.
Part of the reason why I couldn't show the wireless is simply because I'm on a desktop, not a laptop.
Right. No, I understand.
Okay, so anyway, we have some idea how we're going to get people set up with Wi-Fi, if that's what they have.
Yeah.
I think that answered the question.
Okay. Well, I got one question on the Wi-Fi. On my laptop, I'm doing Zoom. I've got the 5G.
Okay.
On my laptop, I put the other one's just got the 2.4.
Okay, that may be a limitation of the Wi-Fi card in the laptop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Is there some way to change that? Is there some way to change that?
Those are very simple to get and replace if you know how to take the hardware apart. It's a little card held on by one or two screws that have your antenna wires. You carefully pull off the antenna wires. You put in the new card, screw it down, put the antenna leads back on, and I would make sure that it's an AC class card. But it depends on the age of the laptop. There are now three types of Wi-Fi cards. There's an ancient 1 inch long, inch and a quarter long rectangle that HP used to use. I don't know anybody else that used it. Then there's a half card that's about 3/4 of an inch to an inch long. And that's what a lot of my systems have. The newer card is a slimmed down, short half card version that uses a what's called a PCI bus, and the connections for the antennas and to the card are half the size of the previous half height card and full size card. So it makes them very difficult to get the antenna leads on the new card. Getting them off is easy.
Well, this an HP. It's like about 10 years old.
Yeah, you probably got the second one. It's a half height card. Unfortunately, I've got a cat in my lap again. Otherwise, I'd get up. It's about a rectangle. Like I say, it's about 3/4 of an inch to an inch high, and it's about an inch or so wide. And you just have to make sure it's an AC version, such as a 7260 or a 7265 card. And it covers both the A band and the B band, and you can select any one of those you've got the password for.
Wayne?
Where would you pick up one of those?
I got mine off of eBay.
eBay, Amazon, everybody's got them.
Okay. Got a question, Wayne.
Hang on a second.
Okay, so that 5G is not 5th generation.
No.
It's 5 gigahertz frequency on the thing.
It has to do with the card in the machine.
Most routers will have both the 2.4 and the 5.
Well, my router does.
It's his card. It's his card in his laptop that doesn't.
Right.
But
And there,
but if the laptop can see the network on the 2.4G,
Yeah.
it's not
It
going to make
sees-
a big difference.
No, there's not a big
Unless
difference.
he's doing
to-
gaming. Unless he's doing gaming, it's not going to make a big difference.
That's
Yeah,
what
it
I was
does.
going to say. It's
It-
okay
it
to
did.
go with the. It's
It
okay to
made
go
a
with
difference.
2.4.
It
Yeah.
makes a difference because I was downloading some of this stuff and it was a lot slower than what I saw Tim doing.
Well, there may be other considerations in your hardware that do that.
Tim is over landline,
Oh, that's
over
right.
Ethernet.
Yeah,
That's
Ethernet.
right.
Just
Yeah,
twice the speed to start
Okay.
off with, right off the bat.
Yeah. He's got probably a gigabyte.
Wayne, if you can see my screen right now,
Yeah,
these this are the cards that you're kind of looking for. This one here, 7265, it's an AC card. It handles up to 867 megabits per second. And that's the new style, not what you're going to need. Come
Right.
down a little bit. Here's the same thing again. This is the style you have in your system. I'll bet you, because you said it's 10 years old.
right. Yeah.
And this is the card you've got to get. Any one of those, you can also get this one here. This one's 1200 megabits per second. I don't see what this one's doing, but as you can see, the price is higher than the new style cards if you had
Well,
a laptop in the last 3 or 4 years. So you're looking for this one here. It's called the Mini PCIe card. It's an AC 7265.
well, I have to take the back off of the laptop, see where it's at if I can get to it.
Yeah, the one headache with laptops, there are two styles. You take out the screws out of the bottom, and either the palm rest keyboard lift off the bottom, or the bottom shell comes off, and all the guts of your computer are hanging on the bottom of the palm rest and keyboard. But there are a few antiques where to take the thing apart, you have to take out the keyboard, because there may be a few screws under the keyboard that also have to come out to successfully take it apart.
Yeah, so the point is, if you insist that you really have to have 5 gigahertz, you can get it. And by the way, both 2.4 and 5 are referred to as wireless 5G, whereas the Wi-Fi, they're referred to as Wi-Fi 5, I'm sorry. They're referred to as Wi-Fi 5. There is a newer 5G technology that's referred to as Wi-Fi 6. You won't have that, and you don't need to worry about it.
Right.
So you're using Wi-Fi 5, either band that you use. That's the technical term. It's not 5G, it's Wi-Fi 5. Anyway, back to what we're doing.
Okay, is there any further questions, comments, etc.?
How soon will you have the video so I can do this?
Well, that'll cost you another $1,000.
Or I could shoot you a few references for some tutorials you can get right away off YouTube.
Hey, I'm trying to make money.
Well, Tim, I
Okay, I just have to get the partitions, so I haven't got that. All right.
No problem. I mean, the video will explain all of it, I think. I probably went a little bit fast, but this also gets a little boring waiting for some of the stuff, so to speak, have the paint dry.
Well, Tim, I started out with my laptop. I put in a blank SSD, so I didn't have anything on it. and I ended up putting the Mint in to begin with without going to the G part, and it ended up putting in like 3 partitions.
Oh, it automatically did that? Automatically?
Yeah.
That's cool because most Linux distros these days won't. They'll use a single partition.
They only put one partition. That's it.
Yeah. But you got it to do all 3 from the installer. Really
it
good.
It automatically looked at it, and it has one little thing, a little thing, and 2 other partitions.
Oh, wait. Yours may have done a couple of EFI boot partitions in addition to a single partition.
Okay.
Your Linux is in a single partition, but it did EFI and it did legacy boot. Those 2 partitions it may have added. Mine does too.
It's got a partition where the files are at, and it also has a partition where the program's at.
Okay, then yours did do what it should.
It's separate.
Yeah, yours did separate out root from home.
That's
excellent.
Unusual. Most Linux distros will not do that. It creates one large partition, puts everything in it.
The only other one I know of that creates separate partitions, including an extra boot partition, is Fedora, because Fedora uses a file system that the bootloader cannot boot directly into. But anyway, most distros will use single partition, and I'm very interested that it turned out that your Mint installer did create 3 partitions.
Oh, it did something, because I had trouble. I was totally blank. And when I plugged in the USB and turned it on, it couldn't find anything, and I finally had to hold Control Alt and F4 or something like that. And then all of a sudden it saw the the USB, and it started loading all that stuff, but it set that all up with partitions.
Well, that's very interesting.
If it truly made the 3 partitions we created manually, I'm surprised.
Yeah. Like I said, the only other installer I know of that will do that by default is Fedora Anaconda.
But it showed 3 different things. It showed a little tiny thing at one end, and then 2 other partitions.
Yeah, well, that could be that it did exactly what we did manually, but it's never done that before.
The boot.
I've played with Mint for a lot of years, and it never set up anything but a single partition. So that may be something new in 20.2.
Well, did you do it on a blank hard drive?
I've done it on SSDs and hard drives. It doesn't matter to Linux. It really doesn't care. It's the performance difference that you're looking for with an SSD over a spinning hard drive.
Yeah, the only thing I've ever seen like the Ubuntu installer do by way of putting in an extra partition is if it needed extra partitions because it's an EFI boot system. Then it'll put in tiny little partitions ahead and a little partition after. But those have to do with EFI boot.
Well, it had an SD1 and an SD5 or something like that.
Jerry, can you share Wayne's screen?
Oh, I can't share it because I don't have my Linux on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Never mind. If you had it, we'd be able to look at it and probably figure out what it actually did create.
Can I look at some way or another? Is there a way to look at the hard drive, look at the partitions?
Well, yeah,
yes.
If you want, you can add to Mint G-parted. You can take the G-parted flash drive we tried to make this evening and boot up the computer off of that, and it will show you the exact partitions.
And you can run G-parted from within Mint, and you also may have a disk utility.
Disk utility, I think it does have, but if I remember correctly, they did not put in G-parted.
No, you can add that from the repository,
Yeah, you have to add it.
and then it must be run as root.
Yes.
Now, when I plug,
And they do have in Mint, if you go under all applications, you'll see on the right-hand column,
Yeah.
disks, D-I-S,
DSKS.
yes.
yeah,
And it
disk.
shows you the partitions.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah. You'll
Okay,
see
so
everything
it's
you've got.
So it's file system partition 1, 537 megabytes fat. Extended partition, partition 2, 250 gigabytes. File system partition 5, 250 gigabyte extended.
Okay, it's showing extended partitions, which it
Yeah.
created. And it
Yeah.
did that because of, I believe your disk is probably MBR, and it needs an extended partition for this. Although if it's EFI, it may need extended partition in order to create the extra EFI partitions. EFI does use extra tiny little partitions, and they very often show up as FAT32 or XFAT or VFAT.
Well, offhand, this may be one of the issues where going into the BIOS and changing to legacy BIOS helps out. It will not create the UEFI partition, and you might want to repartition the whole thing, because I'm betting right now the one large file system, it should say that it's an ext4 partition, is your entire Linux, the Linux itself, the home directory, and if it created a swap file, it's buried in there that you can't see it.
Okay.
So that's the simplest way of getting it up and going, and that is the normal way most people install it initially. But once you play around with Linux a while, you find out it's best to set up a separate root partition, a separate home partition, and a swap file at minimum. And this is on a system that only knows MBR partitioning. It doesn't know the new GPT partition.
Okay.
And so all three are primary. If I needed a fourth partition only, I could make it a primary. But if I need, say, a total of 5 partitions, then the fourth one of empty space has to be set up as an extended partition.
Right.
And I make 2 logical partitions in the extended.
Right. Yeah, because it says you can only have 4 partitions.
Well, yeah, it's either 4 primary or 3 primary and an extended partition.
Yeah.
It depends on how many partitions it's trying to create.
So I could run the G parted on here, but when I plug this in and I turn it on, it doesn't recognize it.
Well, no. I'll lay you odds are in your BIOS, your boot sequence is automatically booting up the hard drive, which I mentioned very early on. And there are 2 ways around it. You go into the BIOS and change your boot sequence so that you got USB first, a CD drive if you've got one second, and your hard drive third. If you don't have a CD drive, make the hard drive second. But another option,
it's got a CD. Yeah.
The other option, listen, the other option you have on most systems, you can hit the escape key, get a small boot partition at startup, and you can select the flash drive from that little partition, and it'll run that if it's bootable. If it's not bootable or it can't recognize it, then it will go and start up your hard drive. There's lots of ins and outs and tricks to all this, and it takes time to learn them all. There's unfortunately no magic pill that can transfer knowledge from one person to another person and have it work.
Yeah, I think the point is GPT partitioning makes things more complicated and usually produces more of these little extra partitions than MBR.
Yeah.
MBR is much simpler to do.
It is, if you understand the differences between the two. If you don't understand them, and most people don't know what MBR and GPT are for partitioning types, then it becomes like glazed over eyes. They haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, anyway, question is, has everybody gotten up to speed yet?
Well, this gives those who have followed this, Peter, how did you do?
I did good.
Excellent.
In fact, I even found where users were, so I can add a regular user in the.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't cover that because most people aren't adding users. Now, you got to understand, in Linux, when you log in with that password, you're not an administrator. You're a standard user. And that's why every time you need administrator privilege to do something, you have to key in the administrator's password, which is the same that you logged in with.
That's why I want to add a regular user that I can give that password out, because then they're logging in on the desktop as a lower user and they don't have the admin password.
Well, actually, they could log into the one you got now. You don't tell them they need that same password. And when it asks for the password, you don't know what it is.
I'm either working with kids or I'm working with geeks.
Yeah.
If you're working with kids, you might want to set up just a guest account.
That's what I want to do.
There is an option to log in as guest. I don't know if Mint has it, but it's right there at the login screen in Ubuntu to log in as a guest session.
I really haven't looked into that yet.
You have a lot fewer privileges, but it's very much like a Windows guest. Only a little less so. It's not quite down to kiosk mode, but it's pretty close.
It's closer.
Yeah, so that's a guest login. And that doesn't need a password. And then they will not.
Mint only has a standard user and administrator.
Okay, so you would want to set up a second standard user.
Yeah.
And you could give that second standard user automatic login, but
I wouldn't.
I think I wouldn't either. I'd just give them the password to get in, and don't tell them it does anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas with the guest account, you couldn't do anything else if you wanted.
Okay. Anything else we need to cover tonight? Don't forget, we have the regular meeting in 2 weeks on the 4th Tuesday. This was just to get people up and going.
Okay, so this will be the 4th Tuesday of the month all the time, other than tonight.
Yes. This was an extra. That's why it said extra on it. And it was just to get newbies something to work with. So right now, Peter, you and Wayne have something you can work with.
Yep.
Dennis and Ken and Donna will have to wait for the video in order to try and get their system configured and up and running. Though Donna, I understand, has a working version of Linux right now, probably set up the way Wayne has his set up.
There we go. I finally got into my, the BIOS here where it has boot options. So I'll change the boot. So it'll do the USB first.
For me, that's a very common thing I do on almost every computer, so that anytime I stick in a flash drive, I can boot up off of it if it's bootable. And I have my optical drive, if I've got one in the machine, as my second device in case I've got a CD or DVD that's bootable. And the hard drive is the last bootable drive as far as I'm concerned. And it only puts in literally a couple seconds delay in getting your regular normal running system booted up and running.
Yes, it's got the hard drive as the first order, then the ROM drive, and then the diskette or
most
USB.
Most of the time you use the F5, F6 keys to move entries up and down. So you highlight one of the entries, use the F5, F6 to move it up or down, etc. You can rearrange that whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out here how to do.
So if you don't have a CD drive, then you just leave
well,
it.
you just have two, USB and your hard drive. Yeah. And you make your USB always first. That way, when you stick in a USB bootable flash drive into your system and turn the power on, it will boot there first, or try to anyway, before it goes to the hard drive and boots up the regular operating system. That's all we're trying to do here. Make life a little easier.
For security reasons, the standard in the industry is boot to the hard drive, whichever one it is first, so that somebody can't go up and just drop in an operating system disk and get all your files.
That's right. And
it shows a USB diskette on the key.
I would lower that to the bottom. A USB diskette or USB floppy is an external plug-in floppy drive, which I doubt most people have. I think I've got one around here somewhere, but God knows the last time I ever used it, probably more than a decade ago.
Then it has a USB CD DVD ROM drive.
If you've got an external CD DVD drive, I do. I could make that the second option.
It doesn't give me a choice on USB.
Well, you should have a USB hard drive.
Yeah.
USB hard drive. That's your flash drive.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to make that the first.
You want to make that the first entry.
Right.
And your regular internal hard drive will be second.
Yep.
That's all you got to do.
Yep.
It's a real pain in the posterior, but this is one of the things I can't show you easily without doing it on a separate system and switching cameras, because you can't be online and play with your BIOS.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Fortunately, because you wouldn't want to have that low-level access when you're online.
I understand that, but the bad part is it makes it tough in this kind of a forum to show people what you're talking about without having a second computer, a second camera, and you switch cameras like I did with the install process.
Yeah, that's what video recorders were made for.
No. I prefer the live. That way, when questions come up, I can try and show things.
No, I'm just saying you could show a video of what the BIOS is doing.
Okay, yeah, but there too, you've got such a wide variety of BIOS and layouts of the BIOS. There's no standardization. There's no standardization of what key do you hit to get into your BIOS to begin with, let alone the boot menu. And so that's why I sent out an article in one of the emails that has an article that tells you all the different makes and models of computers and what keys to use to get into the BIOS or the boot menu.
Yeah, I'm lucky. My last two have been the same. They've been F10.
I wish really a long time ago there could have been some kind of standardization, but that's wishful thinking.
I don't think you're ever going to standardize BIOS or EFI.
I doubt it too.
Anyway, where are we at?
Well, unless somebody's got something else to bring up, I think we can call it a night. It's 9:30 now, so we've been on.